All right, so this class kind of goes with the last class. At least in my mind, they kind of flow together. So on Wednesday night, we started the third section of this study of the problem of evil and suffering. And we're kind of in like extra. In my notes, the section is called extras. So this is where we're just going to start hitting some different things. In our last class, we talked about God feels, which you might just say, well, duh, except for, I won't rehash the whole thing, but that's a conversation that needs to happen. And so then you look through the scripture, and what you can see is God, there were four things that were the end of that. God knows, and when it's I know, it's like a parent tapping their hurting child. I know. He knows, he sees, he hears, he remembers. That was number one. Number two is he feels in all their affliction he was afflicted. So he feels. Number three is he heals. That was easy enough to remember in that one. And then he's present with us in our suffering. That was some of the good passages about how when you pass through the fire and walk through the floods, I will be with you. And so he's present with us in our suffering. Is there anything at all related to our last class that you wanted to bring up, comments or questions before we just keep pressing forward with this? All right, well, this morning then is the cross, which is the pinnacle of all human history and the pinnacle of this study. And the way that I'm going to do this class is, at least the start of this class, is I'm going to use an article by Shane Scott as a kind of template for moving through here. Has anybody ever seen this little article that he wrote? It's called No Crying He Makes. Anybody ever seen it? You haven't seen it? It's kind of hard to find on the internet because it's an old blog post from a blog that's dead. Like it's not gonna show up quickly on Google. And so if you're interested in the article, I can either send it to you, or whenever I post these notes tomorrow, the link is in there. But No Crying He Makes. Wish Ryan Giesing was here. Well, I got Away in a Manger up there. So I was going to say, where do those words come from? No crying he makes, except for I gave it away. There's a song, Away in a Manger, and this is verse 2 of that song. The cattle are lowing, the baby awakes, but little Lord Jesus, no crying he makes. So, here's kind of the basis of the article. Lena, this is gone. Sarah, you can be next up. You've got lots of practice with this. You've got your newborn baby, brought the baby home. You're away in a manger, and the cow next door goes, "Bah!" And the baby just quietly, gently wakes up and smiles at being startled awake by the cow in the manger, right? It's like, yeah. You kind of wonder if the people who write these songs have ever had kids before. But the idea behind this thing is sweet little baby Jesus is perfect in every way, and he doesn't even cry. He's just a perfect little baby. It's so nice to have a perfect little baby. And Shane bounces off of this concept. And I'll put them all up here at one go. We're not going to look at every single one of these. There's really only a couple that I want to look at on this. But there's a huge chunk of this article where Shane moves through and he says, no, Jesus is in John chapter 1 and verse 14, and the Word became flesh. He was a man, and he lived as a man, and he experienced as a man all of the things that humanity experiences and feels. And so each one of these passages are just, they're almost, not almost, they're plucking Scripture out of their context to say, and Jesus was hungry. Okay, God knows what it means to be hungry. He experienced that. I thirst. He knows what it means to be thirsty. He got tired, and he slept when he was tired, just like, probably though there was no daylight savings time for him to have to deal with, so not that kind of tired. But I want to look at this one especially, Mark chapter 3. Some of the other emotions, I don't think that it's probably as, alarming to say Jesus was hungry, Jesus was thirsty, Jesus was tired. Great, we got that. But all of the other emotions that we feel as people, he felt too. He was a man in every way. Would somebody please read Mark chapter 3 and verse 5?
And he looked around at them with anger, grieved at their hardness of heart, and said to the man, stretch out your hand. He stretched it out, and his hand was restored.
Yeah. So Jesus is in a situation where people are being stubborn and difficult, and the text said he looks around and he's mad at those people. It's like, okay, there's a human emotion that God in the flesh feels. How about Matthew 9 and verse 36? You be looking at this list and see if there's any that you are interested to think about or talk about. I'm only going to read 2 more after this one that I'm interested in. Matthew 9 and verse 36. Would somebody read that, please?
Seeing the people, he felt compassion for them because they were distressed and dispirited like sheep without a shepherd.
Okay, so, he looks at people who are helpless, and he feels. That's kind of the thing that we're talking about, the word. He feels. He feels compassion. So there's another similar connection. How about Mark 14? This is one, I think that I probably, what did I write? Yeah, I did. I wrote stress and anxiety up in this one. I'm not just sticking with the words. Maybe you can find better words on this one. Mark 14 in verses 33 and 34. He took with him Peter and James and John and began to be greatly distressed and troubled. I actually should have read from the Luke example, because in the Luke example, his sweat becomes as blood. And so these words, greatly distressed and troubled. He's about to be arrested and tortured to death. Are there better words on this one? I think if I'm going to, what is that? Greatly distressed and troubled. I go straight to stress and anxiety. Are there better words for that? Stressed out doesn't seem to get the job done. Anxiety goes a little farther for me. Especially, that's a word that, it's a word that people know today and they use a lot, anxiety. Yeah.
How do we square saying Jesus was anxious when we have a command to say be anxious for nothing?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure that I know the answer to that question other than to say greatly distressed and troubled. I wonder, nobody really needs to do this, but if you wanted to, you might say something like, hey Google, what's the definition of anxiety? And it will probably say, to be greatly distressed and troubled. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's the same thing. That's why I'm asking. Do you think there's a better word?
No, I just don't know if that's how I would define anxiety.
Yeah, what do you got?
Just in the footnotes, it said that the Greek word was terrified amazement. That's
Somebody. I hear the internet talking to us. Is that? Huh. Yeah. I mean, it's.
that's a different take.
Yeah. Terrified amazement. Like, ah. I would call that anxiety. Maybe there's a different definition, but when I think of anxiety, greatly distressed and troubled is what I'm thinking.
Well, Nick, you said if, it says do not be anxious or be anxious in nothing. I think that's great. You know, we hear that and think, okay, I don't need to worry about this. I need to put my trust in God. But I can still be anxious, like you experience it, and then you experience it, you're like, oh wait, I don't need to stress about this. I need to trust in God. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
The words I think of are overwhelmed but not overcome. And it makes me think about Peter with Jesus in the storm and walking on the water. We know what we need to do to not be overcome, but it doesn't mean we're not, as humans, overwhelmed.
I like the word overwhelmed because that's another word that is a pretty regular part of my vocabulary. Like when you feel underwater, I need to write that down or I'll forget. Anyway, you know, I'm not so interested in arguing about words so much as I am to point to this and say, here's the thing. Have you ever, this is the only example that, you know, can come into my head. I don't want to take the full amount of time to build this thing up, but I went on a call one time doing police work. I think I've told you some of this at one point. We're driving along. The radio goes boop, boop, boop. When you hear 3 tones, it's about to be something good. And they call it out and they say, active shooter, it's happening right now. And they call out the address. And I looked over at John, and it's like the address that they called out was right back there. We just passed this thing. When there's an active shooter, you kind of hope it's far away. Like, let's take a minute to get there. And so we flipped around, and I was standing at the front door, and John goes around to the side. He's going to look in the window. And I can remember that feeling. You know what I'm talking about? Like, oh man, we're about to do something. This is the reason why anxiety is not, I didn't think, uh-oh, I'm going to die. Or I wouldn't have been standing at the front door. Like if I thought that, that's not something that I'm willing to do. But I still don't feel great about this thing. You know what I mean? Like we're about to do something not very much fun. And so the greatly distressed and troubled is, okay, I'm pretty confident that we're going to come out through this. I trust God. I'm not anxious in the sense of I'm not going to make it. But I still don't want to be nailed to a cross and suffocate to death. You know what I'm talking about? Like I don't know if there's a feeling for that. Like I can be confident in the outcome of the situation, but I also don't want to do it.
I think that I forget to look at the whole context of be anxious for nothing, because it's be anxious for nothing, but instead pray. And then if you think of it in that way, that's pretty much exactly what Jesus is doing in the garden. And so I think there can be a difference between the feeling of anxiety and turning to the Lord and knowing I feel anxious, but the Lord is my comfort and the Lord is my rock, versus living in this like anxious state where we're forgetting that the Lord is in control. So in some ways, using anxiety is a pretty good term because it shows exactly what Philippians is saying.
Yeah, good. There you go. That's pretty good. There's one more that I want to look at, 2 John. We don't have to be done with this list if there's other things you want to say. But I think this is a passage that is something that, it's not like we have doubters of Jesus' humanity among us. At least if they're here right now, I don't know that they're here. But to be somebody who says something along the lines of Jesus' suffering was different, or Jesus felt things that were different because he's God. Listen to this before you go down that path. In verse 7, John says, many deceivers, okay, I don't want to be called a deceiver by God. So we're in deceiver territory here. Many deceivers have gone out into the world, those who do not confess the coming of Jesus Christ in the flesh. Such a one is the deceiver and the Antichrist. So let's not be that, right? I mean, that's what's happening here, is to say, look, at that and more. I'm sure if you spent a little bit of time, you could probably think of more things that belong on this list. But the point is, God became a man, and as a man, this is the Philippians 2, he emptied himself, he humbled himself. God became a man, and as a man, he felt and experienced every human emotion that humans feel. And when I say every human emotion, there's always, I'm not trying to be out of line when I say this, or funny, but this is the thing that, this is a universal thing that always comes up when this conversation is there. There's always the guy in the room who's like, well, did Jesus experience what it was like to have menstrual cramps? Okay, hold on. When we say Jesus experienced every human emotion, right? We're not like listing all the human emotions. What people are saying when we say that is, he knows exactly what it means to be a human. And he feels all the feelings and he experienced all the things. Jesus was a man and he knows what it means to be a man. That's what that conversation is when we talk about that. Go ahead.
Hebrews 4:15 says, "For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but was in all points tempted as we are, and yet without sin." God doesn't expect like emotional numbness from us. That's not the God we serve.
Yeah. So here we are back to, I know.
Right.
But it's a different kind of I know. It's like, no, I know. Like, I'm not, I know. It's, hey, no, I did that too. We'll get there. Any others on this one? Okay, Jesus was a man. All of that is preparation to lead to the point of Shane's article. No crying he makes. The point of the article is, and he also felt sorrow and cried. There's lots of places. Are you still in Hebrews? Would you go over to 5 and verses 7 and 8 since you're there? And then would somebody pick these? I want to read all of these. Somebody just pick them up. Hebrews 5 and verses 7 and 8. Lisa's got that one for us.
Who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with vehement cries and tears, who was able to save him from death, and who was heard because of his godly fear. Though he was a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered.
What did it say? Vehement cries and tears. It's one thing to have the little tear, come down your face. It's like, oh, I'm having to cry. That's not the word that we use to describe vehement cries and tears. That's the word that we use to say sobbing, right? Like Becky calls it ugly face crying. But that's what the thing is. And so, hey, the Bible says the words that Jesus did, vehement crying with tears, sobbing. John 11 and verse 35, this is Lazarus has died and all of the family and people around are also suffering. So what's that verse?
Jesus
greatest memory verse of all time. Jesus wept. Luke 19 and verse 41. Who's got that?
And when he drew near and saw the city, he wept over it.
Okay. So let's not, we'll just go ahead and say, maybe there's nobody here who even has a problem with this, but we'll just go ahead and say, as a man, as a human, Jesus experiences the full spectrum of suffering and emotions, all of that, and including sorrow and sadness and hurt and sobbing. What about Isaiah 53 and verse 3? There's a couple words in that one.
He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief.
There you
And as one from whom men hide their face, he was despised and was esteemed of not.
A man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. He is acquainted with grief. He knows it. Anything you want to say about that feeling? God not only understands the feeling, he has lived it, experienced it. That's the thing that we need to take away from this is he says, I know in the sense of he did this thing. Here's kind of the high point of Shane's article. I am glad my Savior cries because it means he cares. He cares for me when I am stricken with grief. That's the same language from Isaiah. Like he was afflicted and stricken with grief. He was too. He cares with me when I am stricken with grief. He cares for me when I wander away from him. Sorry for the typo. He cares for me when I face crisis and distress. And because he cried and because he cares, I can go to him with confidence that as I pray through my tears, he hears me and knows exactly what I'm going through. That conversation belongs in the problem of evil and suffering. All right, anything you want to say about that before we move on to our 4 main takeaways? I said this class is about the cross, and I haven't really read anything about the cross. I guess if you want to go backwards to 1, he feels pain, shame, he can be beaten, bruised, he can bleed, he can suffocate, he can die. It's the cross. The cross is the picture of human suffering. Like this is the picture of human suffering. And so we say, God knows exactly what that is. Nobody has anything to say about that. I'm not trying to drag it out of you. I'm just shocked, like, of all the things.
It also shows betrayal and taking that to heart.
Betrayal of what?
Betrayal and taking that to heart.
Yeah.
Being rejected by your friends, being conspired against by those in authority.
Did I have that one? Did you see it? I think I did. Yeah. Betrayal. Both of these alone. Like it's one thing, so there's 2 pieces of this. One is to be betrayed. Judas, somebody from your inner circle comes and is the cause of your downfall, apparent downfall. Another is these verses, Mark 14 and verse 50 especially, and they all left him and fled. Like, now I'm alone. I'll tell you something else that belongs on this list. I did not include it on this list because it always starts a fight. Not really a fight. It's not a fight, but I think that it belongs on the list. In Matthew 27, when Jesus is hanging on the cross and he quotes from Psalm 22, my God, why have you forsaken me? We had this conversation last Monday. Rob, what was the other thing that, there was another thing besides that reference. I don't remember it. Do you?
No, not right now. I know there was another thing, I just can't remember what it was.
I think, that if I remember correctly, that also belongs in it, but I can't remember what it was. But this is the thing that we need to do with Jesus and his humanity. Every single time you come to, my God, why have you forsaken me? Everybody wants to open up a theology textbook and talk about, well, Jesus was quoting from Psalm 22, and you got to know all the verses, and you come to the end, and this is the way it goes, and Jesus wasn't really forsaken by God. And it's like, hey, how about this? Have you ever been nailed to a cross, and you're actively bleeding and suffocating to death, and it hurts really bad? And I just don't think that conversation demands, hey, let's have this big theological thing. It's Jesus feels, this is what's brought me, he feels as if he's been forsaken by God. Like, it's not hard to imagine how you could feel that way. And all that we're doing is like putting the full weight of humanity on God and saying, he gets it. He did it. He doesn't just understand it. He did it is the point. Okay. Any others? Good comment, Luke.
Felt injustice too.
That's not fair. That's horrible when that happens. Like, this is not right. And what are you going to do? Like, I feel a lot of that right now watching the news. It's just like, man, there's a whole bunch of messed up stuff right now. And then it's just like, what am I going to do about it? Nothing. So, anything else? Okay, yep.
I've been thinking about the Hebrews 5:7 and 8, and I hear my dad's voice in my head because this is one of the first verses he has learned. He's probably so proud back there. But old King James rolls through my head. But I do think it's a beautiful picture of Jesus deeply feeling what we feel, even though he was a son, and then but going forward, and this is how he learned obedience through what he suffered, and then he was made perfect through this, and that's how he became our salvation. And just a good example of Jesus is perfect, and obviously we will never be perfect, but it is a hopeful thing to look forward to see if we can continue to strive towards Jesus' example. We can learn so much through our suffering, and be drawn closer to him.
Yeah.
And also he will have greater compassion than I can imagine because he so deeply understands the suffering.
Yeah.
I always have thought it's so uncomfortable to think about how God allowed Christ to suffer, but I read a really good quote from Greg Hirschel one time, and it said that if God's greatest display of love is Christ suffering, and it kind of turns it on its head for me. I just think like we only see, such a small glimpse of like God's wisdom, and we think protection equals love, and I think what God is like trying to show us is like he can take the hardest, worst piece of suffering and turn it into something that is love and is redemption, and it's just not like anything else in this world. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's just kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah. So you have moved us into the last part of this class. Maybe there's more than 4. I've got 4 things on my list. Okay. God not only knows this feeling, he knows humanity and suffering and pain and evil, the problem of pain and suffering and evil, whatever we're calling this class. He knows it. He's experienced. He personally has done it. So what does that mean for us? And I can't click because the thing that you said is number 4 on my list. But number 4 is going to be the thing that you said. Like, I've got, for each one of these 4 things, I've collected 4 different quotes through the years. And I've got this quote that I want to share with you all that's basically what you just said. The world and Satan and everything evil threw everything that they had at God in Jesus on the cross, and he still defeated it. It's like there's nothing else that they could have thrown at him. And so we'll read that, and it's way better said than what I can say. What else what are your main takeaways before I start clicking my button here? Jesus experienced the things that we experience. We've spent 2 months talking about the problem of pain and suffering. And you look at that 2 months and you say, God says, I did that. So what does that mean for us?
Right. I think one of the things is that, when we think about God, God didn't stand at a distance when it came to all the feelings that he had, the suffering and the dying. He actually did those things. And some people are like, well, I can see it from far, but that's not where Jesus was. He was right there in your face, experiencing these things, being with people, going to the cross, suffering the flogging, crying with people, rejoicing with people, having all of these feelings that was part of who he was, coming down in the actual flesh of man.
Yeah. Not sympathy, but empathy.
Yeah.
Let me throw the first one up here for you that I have. Number 1, Jesus' cross is the ultimate proof of God's love. It's one thing to say, I love you. It's another to actively demonstrate it and say, maybe I don't even say the words, but there is no doubt. There is no question whatsoever that can possibly, there's nobody who can say, well, he doesn't love me. Look at what he did. Yes, he does. I've got this giant list. You don't try and write this down. I'm not on this list for the purpose of reading this list. I'm on this list for the purpose of you just seeing it, what happened. This is a list that's, so I've got it referenced. This is one of my things in the back pages of my Bible here. And I think probably I'll continue to add to it, but this list is all of the places in the New Testament where the word for is used about what Jesus did for us. So Jesse, Jesus died for you. Like you are the one who benefits in this thing. It's the word for. And so he died for the forgiveness of sins, for the ransom of many. He died for us. He did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all. You just go through the list, and it's like God did this thing. Jesus did this thing for you. There is no questioning or doubting his love at all. This might be my favorite one of the quotes we're about to read. I love this quote so much. It's not even the whole quote. It's the last words that I love about this quote. Yes, we do not know the reason God allows evil and suffering to continue, or why it is so random. But now at least we know what the reason is not. It cannot be that he does not love us. Why am I suffering? Why is this happening? One of the reasons is not because God doesn't love you. We know that. Like, check that one off the list. And listen to the rest of the way Tim Keller says this. He says, it cannot be that he does not love us. It cannot be that he does not care. He is so committed to our ultimate happiness that he was willing to plunge into the greatest depths of suffering himself. He understands us. He has been there. And he assures us that he has a plan to eventually wipe away every tear. Okay, here's the thing that I like about this. Someone might say, but that's only half an answer to the question why. And Keller says, yes, but that's the half we need. I like that a lot. Why am I suffering? I don't know. Here's a list of possible reasons, but I don't know. But here's what I do know. It's not because God doesn't love you. That's pretty cool. I like that one a lot. What you got? Anything on the love?
Half thing, it's almost like we're stuck here in this world in our thinking, and we forget that the other half is he's prepared for us a place in heaven where we will be whole, where we won't have any suffering. But we get
Yeah. Ultimate. I think there's 2 classes coming up where one is called justice, and that is, it's not fair. Don't worry, they're going to get theirs. Uh-oh, I'm on that list. But then there's, I think the last one that I'm going to call what you're describing is, the class, I think, is going to be called Suffering in Light of the Eternal Weight of Glory. That's what I like the best. Suffering in the light of, and that's what causes Paul to say momentary light affliction compared to what's coming. You got something, Chuck?
Just kind of what Mark is talking about makes me think about, you see these posts where people claim to be a Christian and how, oh, life's great now, I don't have no more problems in that sense, which other people that are not Christians, like I see Christians and they still have these problems and blah, blah, blah. And the thing that we got to realize is that all this is for after life. It's
Yeah.
not for now. And yes, we can have peace knowing that after we go through all these trials and tribulations, we have a home and a glory to look forward to, instead of just like a normal person. They're going to live their whole life and then they're going to die and they think they're going to be dead, pull over like rope.
Yeah.
You know, and,
Yeah. Hope it was worth it.
right,
It's not.
right.
Spoiler alert.
Exactly. I mean, that's my whole point, is that even because, just because we become Christians doesn't mean our life's going to be perfect and nothing's going to happen. We're not, I mean, look what Jesus went through. He was a person. The only difference from him is he did it without sinning, which is like, you know, to us, wow, how did he do that? How did he smash his finger and not say a cuss word, you know? Or something. I mean, it's that simple.
Okay. I like it. Number 2, you are never truly alone. You may feel it. I mean, there's a situation where you would be like, I mean, maybe somebody else in the history of humanity has experienced the thing that I'm experiencing right now, but they're not close to me. There's this thing, and this is, oh, I think, sorry about that. Here, write these down. I don't have them for you. This is Hebrews 2:18. Hebrews 2:18, and this is what Lisa read for us earlier. Hebrews 4 in verses 15 and 16. It is his suffering that qualified Jesus to be a priest on our behalf. You're not qualified to work on my behalf unless you know what I'm experiencing. That's the only way that you can be on my behalf. And those 2 Hebrews verses say, this is the list of what makes Jesus a good high priest, and the fact that he knows suffering. And so I want to share these with you because you can read the passages that I have, but I like to share some of these quotes with you. Crying out to God in your moment of need is like talking to a dear friend whom you are comfortable talking to because you know that she knows exactly what you're going through. But there is more. God not only understands the broken space that is our current address, he inhabited that space in the person of his son Jesus. This means that the one to whom you cry has first-hand knowledge of the things that you're dealing with. It is frustrating to every sufferer to share their travail with people who don't have a clue and can't relate because they have no first-hand knowledge of what you're talking about. Jesus is not just a student of our suffering, he became a first-hand participant in it. Number 3, Jesus' cross provides courage to overcome fear. Part of this is, there's 2 parts to this one. Part of this is to know that it can be done. Somebody else has done this thing, and when you see that it can be done, it's like, okay, I can do this too. But another part of this is something a little bit different. Listen to this. The only truly practical and lasting solution to fear of situations, locations, or people is fear of God. Only fear of someone more powerful than what you are facing, and the assurance that this one of scary power has chosen to unleash his power for your benefit, has the power to give you courage in the face of something or someone. So Matthew chapter 10 and verse 28, Jesus says, don't fear those who can kill the body. Fear him who can destroy your soul in hell. And so the fear thing is, the courage that comes from suffering is, you suffer with Jesus and it hurts, and he says, hey, that thing hurts and it stinks. We're not saying it's fun, but don't turn on him, because that's even worse. And so it's like, make sure that you fear the right thing in the right way. Hold on. The last thing on my list here is Jesus' cross provides hope. This is Morgan's point. Satan tried and he lost. I really like this one. Jesus on his cross towers over the whole scene as Israel in person, as Yahweh in person, as the point where evil of the world does all that it can, and where the creator of the world does all that he can. Jesus suffers the full consequence of evil. This list is the thing that I like the most about this quote. Here's what Jesus experienced. Evil from the political, social, cultural, personal, moral, religious, and spiritual angles, all rolled into one. Evil in the downward spiral, hurtling toward the pit of destruction and despair, and he does so precisely as the act of redemption. Here's the thing that I underline in my notes. And taking that downward fall and exhausting it, so that there may be new creation, new covenant, forgiveness, freedom of hope. I keep hearing this thing on the news. It's like, hey, we're just going to outlast Iran. Like, at some point, they're just going to run out of missiles. We're just going to exhaust them. They're not going to have anything left to throw. Now, whether or not that's true or smart is its own thing. But that same conversation is what's happening here, where it's like, okay, Jesus says, here I am on the cross. Give me everything that you got. And they did. And it wasn't enough. And he still won. Okay, go ahead, Jay.
Oh, one of the things on item number 3 where it said, Jesus' cross provides courage to overcome fear. In our group meeting last night, Corbin had us read from Philippians. And one of the points that was made in Philippians 1, it was Paul. And his example of that, in the 1 verse 14, and most of the brethren trusting in the Lord because of my imprisonment have far more courage to speak the word of God without fear. So he as well, like you think, oh, Jesus, whatever he did, and how can I do that? Well, Paul did. Like, he was in prison for what he did, and then others followed. Like, you wouldn't think that. You think it would shut everything down. But the opposite was true. It caused Christianity to grow because they saw he was willing to do it.
Yeah. Watching something be done is something that provides courage for others. Okay, you can have the last word. Anything about God suffering or what that means for us? Like, any main takeaways for us on that point? All right. We're just going to keep on rolling with some extra stuff. So it's going to kind of seem like random topics over the next, I guess, until the end of this quarter. But they all have to do with suffering. So here we go. All right. Thanks for your comments.